What if it's backwards? Hey, we are continuing in our Tik Tok Theology series today, and it's been a fun one. In fact, last week, if you were here, you know this, we cut it short, and we're going to kind of pick up a little bit. Today's the sequel to last week, but I want to fill everybody in case you missed it on kind of where we left off. But about once a week, I get into a conversation with somebody who will say something like, hey, I saw something on TikTok recently. And just so you know, just for just language sake, when we say TikTok, we're talking about whatever social media platform you may be on, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or Pinterest or Friendster, whatever it might be. You use Google Sheets, I don't know. But whatever. So we're just using kind of TikTok as a generic term. But someone says to me about once a week, hey, I saw on TikTok this week, I heard someone say something on TikTok that I thought was interesting. It's like, oh. Really, what'd they say? Like, well, they spoke to this, and I've been kind of wondering this, and I've been noticing other people talk about this, and they said this, and I thought it was really good. Oh, okay, that, and I just kind of lean in a little bit, and it's like, well, what they say? It was really good, and I think I believe what they said. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense as you believe what they said because you saw a TikTok, and they're probably an expert, right? They've done a lot of study, they're an expert in the field, and so they gave you some credentials, and they said something, and you really believed it. Well, no, somebody I follow online. I don't really know when I started following him, but I've been following for a while now, and they've got a lot of followers. And so, that sounds credible. Okay, so it makes sense that you heard what they said and that you believed it. But did they give you sources of why they believe this and why they said these things? Well, no, they didn't have time for that, Tony. They didn't have. It's just a 30-second video. They just wanted to make a point. And okay, well okay, I get it. They might not have time for that, but surely they at least gave you an opposing view, something for you to consider from the other side and think about how other people may come to different conclusions. No, Tony, they didn't do any of that. It was just really, really good, and I just liked it. And I'm like, okay. But so then you probably listen to that because you liked it so much. You must have gone home and studied a little further, looked a little more in depth, consider what other people, maybe experts in the field, have to say about such a subject as that you now consider yourself to believe. No, Tony, I just liked it and I reposted it, And this is the progression of what a lot of us do in kind of a silly way of when it comes to social media and the reels and the TikToks and the videos, the short form videos that we watch. We see something and it aligns somehow with some stuff that we already believe. We're like, yes, that's good. I like that. And just, I heart it. And then I maybe repost it or share it to a friend. We don't always know how they form those beliefs. We certainly don't know if they're an expert because the world has just changed so much. Culture has changed so much and so fast. There used to be a barrier between someone being able to actually teach other people. There used to be more credentials that had to be defined. You had to go to school for it. You had to learn a few things. You had to pass some tests. You had to put in the time, the effort, and the study for you to have a voice to be able to speak into other people's lives from a position of authority, right? There were just some more checks and balances and some barriers that were out there so you could actually prove that you knew what you were talking about. But today, if you have a smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection, you can start a podcast and talk about whatever you want. And people that are just novices in any certain topic or any certain subject now, because of access to the internet and technology, everybody kind of gets an equal voice. And there's a whole lot of people out there spouting off a whole lot of things that may or may not be true. Maybe good advice or maybe less than good advice. And somehow we kind of all get to this point where we just agree, we've kind of just culturally accepted the fact that if somebody is on a phone and they're talking from their front seat of their car or a little home studio that they put together, that they now are a voice of authority, right? And we should listen to such voices. It's fascinating. And before I just sound like an old guy yelling at the clouds, let me just say, I recognize that not all of technology, not the TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, not all of it's bad. I think some of it's great. I think it's so incredible that information is so readily available for us, that questions are being asked more than they've ever been asked before, and conversations are being had than maybe more than they used to take place because of how much we're inundated with so many different things. So the problem is not even that people are forming beliefs. The problem is that people are asking questions and considering what other voices have to say, because I think that's all great. In fact, part of our culture here is that we want to be a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus. And in order for us to be a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus, we have to lean into doubt. We have to lean into uncertainty. We have to lean into the questions that people have about faith. Because if anybody can sit here and just pretend like they have all the answers and they found the corner of truth and you should come join them on that corner, they may be, and that's what we talked about last week, they may have a high view of themselves, that they've got all the answers, that they have it all figured out. And as we talked about last week, we talked about this term superior illusory, if I said it right. And we talked about this idea that oftentimes, without knowing it, we elevate our view of ourselves. So we have biases. And oftentimes our bias is that we're surely the one without a bias. We are biased in our own view of ourselves. And so we don't see that, we don't recognize that all the time. And so we feel like we've got things figured out better than the average person. And people should join us on our mountaintop, as we identified last week, it's the peak of Mount Stupid, where it's the idea that if somebody has a little bit of knowledge, they form a whole lot of confidence. And now they're on this mountaintop and they're ready to tell everybody why their new diet is the best diet. And how long have you been doing it? About 3 hours. But they are convinced. They know that they know that they know, right? And so we often have this high view of ourself. Again, so the problem is not that there's a lot of information. The information can be great. It's just, what do we do with it? It's that a lot of us in our culture now, we can build our beliefs on 30-second sound bites instead of deep-rooted, studied understanding. That we build our what we say is core to who we are based on what feels right in the moment because we liked that video and what they did and they were confident in how they said it. And if we're honest, when it comes to building beliefs on these 30-second sound bites or having deep-rooted beliefs, if we're honest, a lot of us don't even really know how to identify the difference because we've just accepted, we've agreed that this is a way that we now learn and form strong opinions. And again, this is why we're doing this series. We're not doing this series because TikTok is evil or Instagram is evil. It's not because podcasts are evil. I enjoy all of those things. I love a good podcast. I learn from these things. I've considered many times about starting a podcast myself. I've had friends say we should start a podcast, right? And the truth is, again, anybody can start a podcast, which also should terrify us because that means that anybody could start a podcast, and that's scary. And so we have to recognize that the issue isn't the platform. The issue is discernment. What do we do with all this information? And we talked about last week how it's not the fact that you have strong beliefs. Great, fantastic. You should know what you believe. But more importantly than knowing what you believe, you should know why you believe it. That is far more valuable, to understand the why. Yeah, I believe this because my parents told me this when I was a kid. Okay, great, but you're not a kid anymore. We've grown up, and we have some due diligence to do to understand the things that need to be understood. And so we're leaning into this during this series because I think that we need to figure out how to live countercultural in a world that's shallow thinking on 30-second sound bites. How do we think deeply? How do we ask good questions and find sincere answers? How do we develop deep roots in a world that's just built on scrolling? How do we follow Jesus in an age of sound bites? Because what I've learned and what I'm convinced of is that maybe because everybody gets to be an expert, like one thing that we could do is just make podcast equipment more expensive. Okay? Make it a little harder. Give some more qualifications to this. But just because somebody has followers does not mean that they have wisdom. And so I want us to actually look at a verse in the Bible. We're going to show it in just a second here. And you can pull out your notes because we're going to use those to follow along. This is fascinating to me. I read this verse. I remember reading this when I first started going to church, like in 8th grade, because I went to a church here in the valley called Berean Bible Church. I didn't know what the word meant, but I went to the church. And after going there, someone explained to me why they would name themselves such a name. This verse explains this. Let's look at this together. Okay? This is in the book of Acts. Okay? It says this: Now the Berean Jews were of more noble character than those in Thessalonica. For they, look at this. They received the message with great eagerness, and they examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. Follow this for a second here. There's this group of Jews. They're from the city of Berea. And I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but Berea, okay? And they're Jewish people. They've grown up in a big faith and a big God that can do big things, believing the Old Testament scriptures. Now, Paul, who's gone around the whole area and been teaching and preaching and starting churches, and he's writing letters and doing different things. These Jews, they received information and they thought it was awesome. They thought it was good. They heard a soundbite of Paul. Wow, This is good. And before they went and reposted it and just told someone else that they should believe what they believe, it says that they went and they actually studied the scriptures to find out if what Paul said was true. And why this is so fascinating to me is because this required for them to change the way they think. Sociologists talk a lot about, there's a lot of statistics that how the truth is that most of us will never change the way we think. We'll never, if we have a core belief, that will never change. It is difficult for someone to change something that is like kind of core and fundamental to who they are. These were Jewish people that did not believe that Jesus was Lord. They had their faith, and it was rooted in the same history and heritage of Jesus, but they did not come to the conclusion that Jesus was Lord. And because of Paul and what Paul was doing in the ministry and the things that they'd heard, they leaned in with curiosity. And they considered, is there something to this? And it says they heard the message with great eagerness because like, wow, this sounds good. This sounds great. And then they went back and instead of just telling the friends, hey, you gotta believe like me now because I heard this guy Paul and he was probably right and now they actually went and studied their own historical documents. And they looked at their own, they evaluated the things that they have believed, not just through their lifetime, but for generations of lifetimes. They looked back at their documents, their Old Testament scriptures, and weighed them against the things that Paul was saying. And many of them came to the conclusion, oh my gosh, it's been right here all along. And we missed it. And Jesus really is Lord. And there is hope, and there is life, and there is something different to this, and there's more to this life than just this life. And they put their trust and their faith in Jesus, not because of a 30-second soundbite that sounded good in the moment, because they went back and actually developed deeper-rooted beliefs. Church, I think we have something to learn from this. We live in a culture where we are inundated with information, and it makes sense that we would take the time to consider far more than what we believe. We'd consider why we believe it. Why we believe it. And so last week, again, Paul talked about how we kind of have this tendency to have a higher view of ourselves and where we are tempted to think highly of ourselves. We elevate ourselves, and we're often naive to this. We don't realize we're doing it. We're naive to it. But we do this. None of us are immune to this. We all have these biases, and we think highly of ourselves. And as we elevate our view of ourselves, we elevate our rightness, our view of our own beliefs and our opinions and worldviews, we often, in that elevation of self, we lower our view of others. People that believe differently or think differently or live differently than we do. Well, they must be wrong. And so they're on the wrong, they're bad. It's us versus them. And we lower our view of others. And we do this without even thinking about it. So this is the verse we looked at last week. And it says this. Paul says this. We're going to jump right down to the bold part. He says, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought. Do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith that God has distributed to each of you. Hey, Paul is letting us know that you and I, that we are all in this together. We have a tendency to elevate our view of ourselves, and we don't even recognize it. We don't even necessarily know it, but we can see ourselves higher than other people. And Paul's like, guys, we got to stop it. Sober up your thinking. Think of yourself in the right way. And Paul's letting us know, hey, essentially, hey, when you can see as God sees, you'll do as God does. When you can think of yourself in the right lens, when you can view yourself the right way, it will radically change the way you see the people around you. It'll radically change the way that you treat the people around you. And this is essentially where we left off last week. And so what do we do? What do we do when we have a tendency to have a high view of ourselves, but now we're becoming aware of it and say, okay, let's keep that in check. And how do we actually care for, love, and treat the people around us? And Paul gives us some very practical steps in doing so. He's like, hey, let's get back to some basics here, okay? Paul's taking us back to a little bit of elementary school on some of the fundamentals, the basics of what should be at the root and the foundation of who we are as followers of Jesus. He's answering this question of what's it look like to love each other, to not lower our view of others, but to elevate our view of others, to love each other in such a way that you and I, that we are a reflection of Jesus. So here's another letter that Paul wrote, a portion of it that Paul wrote to the church in Colossae. And he says this, he says, since God chose you to be the holy people that he loves, you must clothe yourself with. I think this is incredible, like this illustration that Paul is giving us here. He's literally saying there are some things that you should put on, just like you were getting dressed. When you just like you wouldn't leave your home without getting dressed. As followers of Jesus, there's some things that you are to put on somehow emotionally or mentally. There's some things for us to wear every single day as followers of Jesus. We're to put these things on. So what are they? He goes on, he says, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. He says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. And I love this because all these things aren't based on your relationship with other people. They're based on God's relationship with you. So Paul is at the basic level. He's trying to help us as followers of Jesus. If you're here and you say, I'm a follower of Jesus, this is for you. This is what Paul is saying. This is what your life should look like. You should clothe yourself with these things. And he gives us 6 pieces of clothing that kind of come together and fit like an outfit when we're willing to put them on. So let's look at these. And again, there's some fill in the blanks in your notes. Number 1 is this. He says to clothe yourself with compassion. Compassion says, I feel what you feel. I feel what you feel. In English, we have this phrase where we say things like, I love you with all of my heart, right? Which we don't literally mean like the muscle that's pumping blood in your bodies, right? Otherwise, Valentine's Day would look a lot different. Like we don't mean that. The word compassion that's actually used here is made up of 2 words that literally mean with all of my bowels. I love you with all of my guts, right? Like imagine saying that to your spouse, right? Like, I love you. It's your 25th anniversary. You get her a card, you write in it. You're like, honey, 25 years and you still have all my bowels, right? Like you're probably not going to make it to 26, okay? But it's this idea that when you really feel something heartbreaking, where do you feel it? You feel it in your gut, right? And so you feel it deep within you. You emotionally feel what someone is feeling. That's what compassion is, where you can say, I feel what you feel. Where do you feel it? You feel it in your gut. You feel it as like deep within. And Paul's saying, hey, if you're going to actively love people the way Jesus can love others, you're to clothe yourself with compassion. And man, what I love for our church to be known as a place that truly is compassionate toward our community and to the people around us, that you can feel and care for the people right where they're at, regardless of what put them in the situation in the first place. That we are just people clothed with compassion. So that's the first one. The second one is this. He says to clothe yourself with kindness. Kindness is when you loan your ability to someone else. That's what kindness is. Kindness is when someone needs something done for them and you do it. It's as simple as opening the door and holding it open for the gal to pass through, right? Oh, you're so kind, right? Those are the types of things we say. Like, that was so kind of you because you loaned your ability, your capacity, what you were able to do. Paul says, I want you to put this on like it's a new habit, that you loan your ability to other people. And so again, we have kind of language that we use in our culture. That was so kind of you. One phrase that I think it's strange to me when someone's maybe being difficult, saying things that are mean, and parents, you've told your kids, just kill them with kindness, okay? That doesn't sound kind. That doesn't, like, kill them with kindness. Maybe it's good advice. I'm not sure. But we have these phrases that we use in our culture. And kindness goes a long way because you did something maybe unexpected or unrequired of you, but you went out and you did it anyways. And Paul says, I want you to put on kindness like you put on a sweater. So tomorrow you wear a cardigan of kindness when you go out of the house. The third one he says to clothe yourself with is humility. Humility is seeing myself as I really am in relation to God and others. And remember, all of these things that we're to clothe ourselves with, all of these things are about how we treat others. It's like Paul's saying, hey, the clothing is for the benefit of others, which is probably true. The clothing that we wear is often for the benefit of others. Can you agree? But we put on clothing, and so now we are to view this of how does this help shape the people around me? And when we act in humility, we can see ourselves in the right way in relationship to God and other people, the accurate view of ourselves, to not have too high a view of ourselves. And the reality is if we can have humility, we see ourselves as like citizens of humanity, just like everyone else, no matter where you were born, what city you were born into, what family you were born into. We all came to this world like kicking, screaming, naked. Like, it doesn't matter if I can jump higher than you or you can jump higher than me. Like, we're equal in this. What makes you special is the same thing that makes me special, and is that you were created and you were loved by God the Father. Every one of us. Doesn't matter how much you have or how much you don't have, or what family you were born into, or what your social class is. We're equals in this world, living under this canopy of God's love. And so live with right relationship to God and others through humility. And the fourth one to clothe yourself with is gentleness. Gentleness is responding to you based on your strength and weakness. When someone that's gentle, they respond unto those around them based on their strength or their weakness. So instead of responding to you in my strength, and look how powerful I am, gentleness is deciding to come to your level of strength or weakness. In fact, one of the things I love the most when I see our kids volunteers, when kids walk up and they come to check in and the kids volunteer like gets down right on their level and like just speaks to them eye to eye. Like to look at a kid, because it's so easy for me, especially at 6'6", like I like a kid's like, hey, they can't even like look up and see me. But if you get down on their level, that's what gentleness is. It's meeting them on their level. This is why some of you in the lobby, I talk to you like this, okay? I'm just kidding, I don't, that would be weird, okay? But a kid, you understand that. Gentleness is the difference between, the way you pick up a contact lens with just the tip of your finger, or you grip a baseball in the whole palm of your hand. You have the capacity for both, but your gentleness is determined by the strength or the weakness of that object, not by how powerful you are. And when you're gentle towards somebody, you get on their level. And when you're gentle towards somebody, you respond to them based on their strength or their weakness, right? And it's not like to be a condescending thing. It's not a condescending way. That's nothing to do with it. But it's just recognizing the person that's in front of you and how you relate to them. And sometimes what they need is not your strength. They need your gentleness. You get on their level of strength or their level of weakness. It has everything to do with kind of communicating this, like, hey, my relationship with you is more important than me trying to impress you. That I actually want to meet you right where you're at. That's gentleness. I'm going to adjust for your benefit. And the fifth one that Paul says to clothe yourself with is patience. Patience. Anyone struggle with patience? Okay, some of you are like, my hand went up first, right? You're like, I'm the least impatient person in the room. I know for me, this is a difficult one because I want everybody to walk at my speed and I have a tendency to walk fast. And some of you are like, well, Tony, you're just tall. No, because I grew up with a mom who walked around the grocery store. I'm like, Mom, slow down, you're walking too fast, and my mom's not tall. And I had to just keep up with her as a kid. So many times she's walking. I'm just trying to keep up. I wish now my kids are saying, Dad, slow down. You've got long legs, you're walking too fast, right? And I wish everybody would just walk at my speed. If I go for a hike with my wife, and I'll tell you what, everything within me just wants her to walk at my speed. Like, why can't we do this faster? Like, are we just meandering? Like, why don't we walk within, and I want her to walk at my speed, but the true purpose is not to accomplish the hike as fast as we possibly can, right? It's to spend that time together. And patience says that I'm gonna move at the speed of another person, right? And so you move at their speed. You don't require them to move at your speed. And this isn't just about walking or just about running. Patience is making a decision to move at the pace instead of them, instead of yourself. So patience says, hey, I wish you would see things my way, but you don't yet. And so I'm going to be patient. I wish you were more kind or more loving, but I know you're working on it and I'm gonna be patient. I wish you weren't so selfish, but you know what? Since God has been selfish with me, or patient with me, I'm gonna be patient with you. Paul reminds us that God has been patient with us, so our patience with others isn't based on them, but it's based on God's patience with us. And then finally is the sixth one. The sixth one, I like this one, forgiveness. And I like it because this is actually a theme that we've had come up multiple times in the last few sermon series. We've hit on this many times in the last few months. Forgiveness. Forgiveness says, you don't owe me anymore. But I like this specifically. In fact, I'm gonna challenge the guy in the booth. Can you show the verse again that we're reading this from in Colossians 3:12? Can you find that verse again? I want us to look at this together. And because this is fascinating to me. Look at this. We're gonna get it. I believe. All right. Back one. Clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. We're good on those? We talked about those 5? Now let's go to 6, okay? Make allowance for each other's faults. Make allowance for each other's faults. Some of us, we don't do this. Like with a kid and they mess up, they goof up, whatever. And it's like, yeah, you're just a kid. Like, and you can get past it really quickly. But when it's a coworker and not a kid, a lot harder. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. I like this because so many times we talk about forgiveness and we can focus on like really big things. Somebody who truly harmed you and hurt you and cheated you and lied to you. They did something that like on a big level that all of us in the room would agree with, like, yep, That was wrong. And I'm so sorry that you went through this. But check this out just on a simple everyday level, because most of us go through normal life and we're carrying around offenses that people have done towards us. And we couldn't articulate, they did this and it was wrong and it was like, and we couldn't like take them to court and win. Like there's not like a huge judgment to be made. It's just somebody who said that offhanded, out-of-pocket comment to you that got under your skin. That passive-aggressive coworker that just irritates you, and you're offended. That person in your life that they may not even know it. They don't even know the words that they said have are gripping your heart so much. And Paul's like, guys, this is important here. If we're going to be mature and we're going to clothe ourselves and like to make allowance for each other's faults, people will fail you. People will fall short. To make allowance for that and to forgive anyone who offends you. To be able to look past that. To be able to say, you know what? I'm not going to hold that against them anymore. Remember what forgiveness says. Forgiveness says, you don't owe me anymore. So when we say, you've offended me, your words hurt me, and maybe you know it, maybe you don't know it, but forgiveness says, you know what? I don't need to hold that against them. And you don't have to make a spectacle about it. You don't have to go around work tomorrow and say, I forgive you, and I especially forgive you. You don't have to do that. You just choose to not hold it against them anymore. And I know it's hard, and I know it's difficult, but Paul says this is why we got to clothe ourselves with it. To be intentional, to wake up and says, I'm going to put that on today. And that one's a hard, you know how you have something in your closet sometimes, and you're like, that's a good piece of an outfit that you just never wear. Right? Like it looks good, and it's like, I just don't know how it fits with other things I'm wearing. Sometimes this is what forgiveness is for us. Like I know I should do it. I just don't want to put it on because it's hard to wear. It's hard to do. And Paul's like, this is important that we do this, that we make allowance for each other's faults and we forgive. And what do we forgive? And how do we forgive? Do we forgive the way they forgave us? No. We forgive the way that God has forgiven us. Because you've been forgiven, you're to forgive others. This is true for all of this, that you would be compassionate because God has been compassionate towards you. That you would be kind because God has been so kind to you. That you'd be gentle because God has been so gentle to you. You'd be patient because God has been so patient with you. Remember how compassionate, kind, humble, gentle, patient, and forgiving that God has been for you? Paul's like, this is what I want you to be known for. I want you to somehow every day put this on like you're putting on an outfit. One of the things I love about outfits is if you have people that are close to you in your life, like that you interact with, you kind of have a sense of their style. You have a sense of the way they dress. If you've got friends coming over tonight, and if you're going to meet up with a buddy tomorrow, whatever it is, you already know without even thinking about it, you kind of know what they're going to wear. And you might not know like the color of their shirt, but you have an idea of like, yeah, that guy always wears like a t-shirt and jeans and some Skechers, or that's a Nike guy. Like you know these things without thinking about it. You just have an idea like this is what they look like. This is what they wear. Paul's like, what if we could be known like this? What if we could be known for wearing these things? When people think about you, they associate you with words like kindness and gentleness and patience and compassion and humility, forgiveness, that just like your outfits you can be known for, that Paul would say you should be known for these things. Again, not because of the way people have treated you or the way people love you, but because of the way God has treated you, because of the way God loves you. And then Paul, he goes further and he summarizes it, and this is brilliant. He summarizes it all with the next verse in Colossians. He says this, he says, above all, so all the other things that I just said to clothe yourself with, above all, he says, clothe yourself with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. So love really looks and works like the overcoat that holds this whole outfit together. Love is the summary of everything that Paul has said to put on every single day. And so Paul, the Apostle Paul, who learned from people who learned directly from Jesus, he would say, hey, I want you to put these things on. I want you to be known for this type of an outfit. In fact, Jesus tells us that he wants people to be able to look at us and be able to tell who it is that we're following. And if you're following Jesus, Jesus wants you to be able to be known about you by the way you live your life. What's that mean? By the way you clothe yourself. The way you clothe yourself with these things. And it's not because of what you do on Sunday mornings, but it's because how you live your life every single day of your life. It can't be based on how you grew up alone. It can't be based on your religious heritage or pedigree. It It can't be based on how you've experienced love or how people have shown up for you. Jesus actually said, hey, you don't love people the way you think they deserve to be loved. Jesus tells us in the Gospel of John, he says, I want you to love others just the way that I have loved you. He sets the bar. He sets the standard. And what's that love look like? That love looks humility and forgiveness. To put these things on like the way you put on your clothes, that you would wear these things. You make a ought to. We pay attention to what we're clothing ourselves. We can make a difference. We can make a difference in our lives, with family, coworkers, our church. And you don't have to. You can just keep doing the same things you've been doing. You can say, oh, Tony, this was a great message for them. Like, because you don't feel like this is for you because you probably have a high view of yourself. And even that, you're like, okay, you're not talking to me anymore because that's not me. It might be you. If today you hear this message or last week's message or the week before that, and you're like, that's really good for someone else. I hope they heard that. You might have a high view of yourself. And I wonder, how are you doing at clothing yourself? And for some of you, this is actually what led you to maybe hold God or church at arm's distance. Maybe you've gone through a season where you've actually walked away from church. Maybe today you're back in church for the first time in who knows how long. And it's not because you really have a problem with God or a problem with Jesus, but along the way, you've bumped into some half-dressed or undressed Christians. People who forgot to get dressed in the morning. And I want to say, if that's you, that's your story, if that's your experience, I'm sorry for the way that we get this wrong and that we mess this up. But I would hope that don't abandon, don't forfeit your entire pursuit of Jesus, Lord, Savior. Don't abandon all of that just because there's some people who didn't take the time to get dressed that morning. Lean in. All of us lean in with curiosity. Lean into the things of God. What does He have for you? What does He want for you? What can we learn from Him? That we would clothe ourselves with these things because it will make a difference. So tomorrow, even today, consider, what do we do? Well, what are the things that you say and the way that you live and the things that you post and the comments that you get involved with? Do those things look like love? Do those things look like compassion and kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, and forgiveness? That we'd be known for this type of outfit. That people, when they think of you, when they think of us, when they think of our church, are like, yeah, that's the church. that's always got open arms. That's that church. That is that safe place for my friend to show up and not feel judged, but actually feel accepted and welcomed. That we can lean into the things of God together. And we do that through compassion and kindness, in humility and gentleness and patience and forgiveness. Today, if you're here and you say, I need to just begin this journey of following Jesus, like you've put it off or been holding it at arm's distance because of some Christians who have been around you. You're like, I don't really like that, but I just need purpose. I need a savior. I need direction in life. It starts with Jesus. You surrender your life to him. Say, Jesus, you are the Lord and leader of my life. And we're going to pray in just a minute. And it's not because your prayer is some like magical spell of some kind. It's just a genuine connection with our Creator that you would authentically say in your heart and in your mind, where you say, Jesus, I choose you. And then for all of us, we have to consider what next steps are. And that's where you personally have to make that decision for yourself. But across this whole room, would you just bow your head, close your eyes? Would you pray with me? Pray with me now. God, as we meet with you, that we don't just hear these words from Tony, who's trying to do my best to share some words from Paul, who's trying to do his best to share some intentions from Jesus. That we would take these words and say, God, how do we apply them to our hearts and our lives? And some of us, God, we're here right now and we feel alone, we feel lost, we feel left out, we feel abandoned, and we need to choose you. We don't feel like we have purpose. We've been doing our own way. We've been running on this like hamster wheel of life, and it's got us nowhere. God, right now, we surrender ourselves to you. We surrender our lives, our ways, our motives, to see ourselves the way that you see us, as loved. You call us son, you call us daughter. God, we accept an invitation to be part of your family. We choose you now to be the Lord and the leader of our life. Help us to walk in your direction, that we find you in this moment and that we follow you tomorrow. That you change our lives. And God, for each one of us in the room that we have been following you maybe for a while, we have a decision to make, to really consider what is our next step. What's one of the 6 things that we have been lacking to put on? It's that shirt in the corner of our closet that we would love to wear. It just doesn't seem to match, and it seems hard to fit, and it seems that we would take the intentionality to put that on today, tomorrow, this week. God, shape our wardrobe so we can look, sound, and feel like love to the people around us. That we would be a representation of you. In Jesus' name.